Spoiler warning for the entirety of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. In the span of a few cutscenes, we are shown not only why Rex makes really dumb decisions, but we're also shown how these dumb decisions are actually crucial to the overall plot of Xenoblade 2. But in order to understand any of this, we need to first address the setting Rex is in, because it plays an important role in why his bad decision making spirals out of control so quickly. The first shot of this scene is of the Argentum trade guild, and the first thing to note here is the kind of music that plays. If you pay attention to the tempo of the song, you'll notice it serves as a sort of contrast in terms of storytelling. In the last episode of XenoSpectives, we discussed the serious and even upsetting issues of Arrest in the majority of the cutscene directly before this, and this music helps in the process of carrying on the lighthearted tone that Gramps and Rex gave us at the very end of that cutscene in order to help the player digest all of what just happened. This is backed up not only by literally letting the player take a break from the action of the fighting tutorial to just run around and explore with no danger present, except for this menace of course, but it's also backed up by the dialogue that is about to take place that we'll analyze in just a second. But first you need to understand that because this is a safe and familiar place, it's actually the best place for Rex to ignore red flags and make dumb decisions. Let me explain with an analogy. Did you know that 77% of car wrecks happen within a 15-mile radius of one's home? Yes, it's because we drive there the most often, but it's also because we are way less alert in those areas because it's a familiar place where we can rely more on muscle memory and not actually have to think too much about what we're doing. The reason Rex makes so many dumb decisions in these scenes is because he's in a familiar place where he can be off guard. Let me show you. Rex and Gramps are having an inaudible conversation as Whistlebritches here starts flapping his gums. Basically, the way the conversation goes is Whistlebritches is like, "Which one am I unloading?" And Rex says, "We can work out the details when I'm done negotiating. Later," and runs away. Whistlebritches is like,
"Hey, hold on! You know I can't do credit!"
To no avail, of course. Then he says,
"Does it every time, too."
He then shoots Gramps a look, and Gramps is like,
"No one, I'm afraid."
"It's okay, Gramps, you don't have to be afraid." Of course, the tempo of the music is supposed to indicate that this is all lighthearted banter that's not only meant to be funny, but it's also supposed to communicate to us that Rex is in a comfortable place. Since, he's just taking advantage of people like normal, I guess. Way to raise your grandchild with integrity, Gramps. And while this is all fun and games, there is some value in taking this scene seriously as it shows that Rex needs to develop as a character. Alright, time to address the first really stupid thing Rex does. Rex is on his merry little way to sell all of his stuff when he sees the Monoceros and literally stops in his tracks to look at it and says, "It's huge and it's not even a Titan." Now, the fact that Rex knows it isn't a Titan shows that he knows a thing or two about them, which makes sense. However, him being impressed by the fact that it isn't a Titan means it's out of the ordinary. I mean, that's clear just by the fact that it caught his eye. Of course, this is not only foreshadowing that this ship has greater significance, but it should also serve as a red flag that he should be cautious about anything out of the ordinary, but as we know, he isn't. Now, I am being harsh on Rex as he is just a kid, and even some adults would certainly be oblivious to something like this, so I think we can let this one slide. But trust me, it only gets worse from here. Next, we get the dialogue that not only confirms Rex is the kindest soul on Arrest, but it also gives the player even more context as to why Rex makes such dumb decisions in these cutscenes. We enter this scene mid-conversation when Rex is shocked that this jerk of a Napon Mrs. Nesbit apparently doesn't want to offer Rex what he was expecting for his goods. Either Nesbit is being cheap or Rex simply wants too much, but considering she's like,
"It's life, man,"
and then proceeds to try to get a child to trade in military supplies for more money, I'm gonna go with she's being cheap. Oh, and then she insults him by saying it's a waste of his talent that he stays away from dealing in weaponry. Why are you like this? Rex regrettably takes the offer and sends some of that money to his home in Fonset Village, which prompts Mrs. Nesbit to call her child a dum-dum for not doing something similar, which of course makes her more detestable. Also, what the hell are these Napon in the background doing? Then Rex makes a joke about how he only sends that money home because Gramps doesn't charge rent, and then laughs really awkwardly while doing so.
Hey! Alright, I'm counting on you.
Roger.
Couple things here.
Legendary biscuit.
Shut up! Anyway, The fact that Rex apparently got very little for what he sold and still sent money home to Fonset tells us he's making the bare minimum of what he needs for himself, which means he's pretty desperate for money. And as we know, when it comes to needing money, people make some really dumb decisions like we're about to see Rex do again. In the next scene, Rex is approached by a Nappa named Papunin, the chairman's right-hand man, who oddly seems to be attempting to butter Rex up to the idea of going to see the chairman. Listen to this.
Rex looking high spirits? No, how say? Yes, peppy.
Come on, this dude is obviously lying. Why would Rex look peppy right after feeling swindled from a deal he was essentially forced to accept just to make ends meet? We know he's not in a bad mood per se, but judging by his response,
Been worse?
he's doing average, not peppy. After Rex asks,
So, you got something for me?
Papunin says,
Something like that. By the way, Rex come from Fonset village in Leftherian archipelago, yes?
bro, why do you need to know? Rex actually does something pretty smart here and even asks Papunin this very question, but it's unfortunately the last time we'll see him question anything. The worst part is, Papunin doesn't even answer him. He's just like,
You should go straight to boardroom of chairman.
Now, Papunin and Rex apparently know each other very well, but I wouldn't exactly call them friends considering
It's been a while.
needless to say, this gives off the kind of vibes that I'd get from someone trying to scam me out of information. Also, why would Rex need to be buttered up to go see the chairman when he's obviously a big deal? This is made clear not only by the fact that Rex is like,
The chairman. For me.
but also by the fact that we learn that Rex has never even met him before. I'm sure Papunin would probably get scolded by the chairman pretty badly if Rex was in a bad mood, but none of what Papunin did here was really necessary at all, which means, yeah, you must be pretty scared of your boss. This, of course, is a red flag. At this point, Rex should no doubt be wary of what's going on. Don't get me wrong, I don't blame Rex for just going to see the chairman, but he literally does the exact opposite of being wary while having a bunch of other red flags thrown in his face. Let me show you. In the next scene, we are greeted with music titled Bana's Theme that gives off the perfect blend of mischievous and something's off. Red flag number 1, Rex. The chairman himself looks and sounds sleazy as hell. Red flag number 2. There are 2 servant girls present, which means he's got way too much money to flaunt. Red flag number 3. What on earth could be in this satchel with a lock on it strapped to this Nappan's back? I mean, does he sleep with it on? You know what? I don't want to know. Of course, Rex can't see the satchel because of Big Chungus here, but I think he's got enough to go off without it. And Bana hasn't even said anything yet. Aside from introducing himself, the first thing Bana does is also butter Rex up by saying he heard Rex is a salvager of some renown, and that he has a teensy favor to ask him that will get him a reward of 200,000 gold in total. Come on, Rex. I know that's a lot of money, especially to a boy, but then why does Bana need to hype all this up? I mean, the fact that Rex is like,
I must be dreaming.
is proof enough that this job is indeed too good to be true. So of course,
do it.
Rex declines the
I hereby swear to use every skill I possess to ensure
wait,
this job
what?
is successful.
Really, Rex? Okay, that's fine. There's still plenty of time for Rex to back out. Because trust me, the red flags only get worse from here. Next, Bana brings the crew in and we get what I like to call the high school upperclassmen moment. Nia, Malos, and Jin, along with their blades, walk out of a dark, mysterious room, red flag, and strut themselves toward Rex in slow motion, and Rex is like, whoa, hey, they look so cool. Just as any freshman or even sophomore would look at the seniors in your typical movie about high schoolers. You could even add some of that music and it would make sense. Anyway, aside from the obvious I've mentioned 50 times now, this shows us a couple things. 1, Rex has most likely always wanted to be a driver, and 2, drivers are on another level. They are the standard to meet here in Allrest, which further reinforces just how fishy this whole situation is that a bunch of upperclassmen would want a freshman to help them out. And one of them is wearing a mask for some reason. I guess Nia looking just about as old as Rex probably made him feel a little bit better about tagging along with the 2 pretty boys. But Rex, why aren't you asking questions now? Now's the time to ask them. This is of course partially because he's only 15 and his brain is quite literally not developed enough for him to properly think things through, but also deep down, I think he knows that if he starts asking too many questions, things that seem too good to be true start to fall apart, and of course, he doesn't want that. The first one to say something is supposed to be the leader of the group, Jin, who says,
So, there's something that we want to haul up.
Alright, first off, why can't you tell me what it is you want to haul up, and more importantly, why do you want it hauled up in the first place? Thankfully, of course, we know Rex asks, oh wait, he doesn't! Instead, he's just like,
Nice. I like a good challenge.
look, even Jin looks like he wants to murder him. Bana then talks about how the crew wanted a small elite team from Leftheria, which begs the question once again, why? Of course, at this point, we can only expect Rex to say something along the lines of,
Ha ha! You made the right choice.
instead of actually questioning this, which prompts Nia to laugh at the fact that he's a child. Rex then says,
What the hell? You look as much like a kid as I do, lady.
Nia responds,
At least I wouldn't wet myself for the promise of a measly £100.
Now, what's interesting here is that despite this being a rude comment which is very much in character for Nia, it actually shows she cares. This is evident not only in the fact that she spoke up in the first place instead of saving her breath as Malos and Jin do, but in a way she also sort of warns Rex whether she meant to or not. Think about it. The main thing driving Rex to go through with this job and ignore all of these red flags in the process is all of the money that he's been promised. And Nia is essentially saying, yo, this money is not a big deal. Of course, Rex rightfully remains pissed off at her for making these comments, and then Dromark diffuses the situation like a real adult would. Nia acting this way actually foreshadows a conversation she'll have with Rex in the next episode of XenoSpectives that not only solidifies that she's not the bad guy here, but also shows how much in common they really have. Nia then tries to tell Dromark to stop, but Malos has had enough of her playing around at this point and tells her to drop it. Then he proceeds to test Rex by, lunging to attack him. No red flags there, so I guess we can move on. After the fight, Rex is like,
What are you playing at?
Then Nia says,
Malos, what good is it beating up a kid?
after Malos responds,
You said it yourself, didn't you? What if the kid's not up to it?
Nia says,
I said nothing of the sort.
which again not only indicates she's not the enemy here, but she apparently doesn't want Rex thinking she thinks he's not up to it, which kind of foreshadows her interest in him. Anyway, Malos then says,
You don't look like a driver. Where'd you learn those arts?
and despite almost, just being killed, no big deal, Rex is apparently cool now because he responds calmly with,
Gramps showed me a thing or two, even when I was little. That was his idea of playtime.
okay, Rex, you see how Malos just asked you a question? That's what you should have been doing this entire time. Jeez. Anyway, Malos literally couldn't have insulted Rex more by straight up ignoring that statement and not even asking who Gramps is. I bring this up because it contrasts what Nia does in the next episode. Actually give a damn? Though I will give Malos that he tells Rex,
Well, you've got some skill, I'll give you that. Guts too.
which is about as good as a compliment as you can get from him. But I think the biggest red flag of all is what Jin and Bana do. Nothing. Rex gets attacked, and they do absolutely nothing. Look, Jin just stands there unfazed. Jin and Malos are literally acting like a boss and his henchmen would as Malos does all the dirty work. Does Rex notice this? Say it with me, class. No. After Malos is like,
Kid, you better work hard.
he, his blade, and Jin walk out of the room and Nia almost breathes a sigh of relief. I think this is for two reasons. One, the bosses are gone, which means she can breathe a little bit and doesn't have to put on this facade that she's big and bad when she's really not. And two, I think she was probably relieved that Rex didn't die, which again, shows that she cares not only for Rex, but that she cares in general. Next, Bana says,
My. Friends are such rowdy bunch.
and then slaps 100G on the table, most likely to distract Rex from the fact that he almost just got killed, but I think Rex's response is more interesting. He isn't all giddy like he was before. Of course, this is most likely because he's still on guard from almost being killed, and he's also probably still pretty pissed about that, but it's also probably because he's trying to act all hard like an adult, since Nia called him out for freaking out over 200 grand. Don't worry though, Rex being oblivious to all of these red flags was actually for the better despite how frustrating it is to watch. Had an adult gone through all of this, they probably would have noticed these red flags way earlier and declined, thus leaving the fate of Allrest up to chance. But as we'll explore in the next episode, Allrest doesn't need an adult. It needs a kid who's willing to do all of the things adults would consider stupid to bring about peace in Allrest. So who's laughing now? I seriously appreciate all of your support on the last episode of XenoSpectives, as it makes me excited to continue putting out these videos. Also, let me just say, I love all the excitement around this series, so keep it coming. If you haven't watched that first episode yet, go check it out, and be sure to tune in next time where I take a look at how Gramps and Nia actually almost hinder Rex from his goals. And as always, thanks for watching till the end.